Okay, we're here with David Weiss, who's the owner of Bella Vista Farming Company, and we're here in the Kelseyville area, and more specifically, we're in the Big Valley area of Lake County. And David's going to talk a little bit about Big Valley and what makes it unique and what happens here.
Well, as Brian said, this is the Big Valley area of Lake County, and most of Big Valley is in the 1,300 to 1,500 foot elevation. The valley is dominated by the Clear Lake, which is on the north end of the Big Valley, and then it's surrounded by the Mayacamas mountain range to the west and the Vaca range to the east, and so it has some interesting weather dynamics that go on here that make it great for farming. One of those things is that we have really a pretty significant diurnal temperature swing from nighttime to daytime, and that goes on throughout the year, but it's most pronounced in the summer and fall, and that's why growing great Sauvignon Blanc is done here, because we're allowed, by having cool nights and warm days, the grapes ripen, but they retain acidity as they ripen, and so bricks, sugars are developed, but acidity is not sacrificed, and that has made for some great Sauvignon Blanc, some great Chardonnay, and Riesling is another variety here that does very well in the Big Valley. That's not to say that we can only grow white grapes here. There are pockets, islands, if you will, of really good red grape soils here as well. And those tend to be located along the creeks that flow through the Big Valley and drain the mountains. We happen to be standing next to Kelsey Creek, and while this vineyard in the background is Chardonnay, about a quarter of a mile downstream and about a half a mile upstream, we're growing some really good Cabernet Franc, Merlot, and Cabernet Sauvignon that I think will, they're all young vineyards, but as they progress, will do very well in some really well-made wines.
So David, Big Valley then is crisscrossed by a fair amount of gravel beds, ancient and current stream beds.
Yes, there are 3 or 4 main creeks that flow through the valley towards the lake that drain those surrounding hills and mountains. And over the eons, those have meandered through the valley and have deposited gravel and sand and silt in various pockets. And today, those pockets have been avoided for crops such as pears, because pears require lots of irrigation and lots of deep, heavy clay soils by comparison, in order to grow big trees and ripen big fruit. But they're great for grapes, and so we've found that by looking for those pockets, we can have a better selection of varieties of grapes to grow, some whites, some reds, but I think it's something that is really unique about this valley, and gives us a lot of diversity from which to choose the varieties we want to grow here. The soils is the subject that you've alluded to. Generally speaking, the valley is predominantly clay, sand, and loam. Mostly clay, especially as you get closer to the lake. And we happen to be about 3/4 of a mile, maybe a bit more, from Clear Lake in the Kelseyville area. So these soils are generally very fertile, and as I said, mostly clay and loam. So they're suitable for growing lots of crops, but the primary crops in this area are wine grapes and pears, some walnuts as well.
Great. Now, David, and you're talking about that now, and behind you we have a pear tree, and obviously this pear orchard borders on your Chardonnay vineyard just next door here. Lake County has a long history of growing grapes, long history of agriculture, but where we're standing seems to have a very long and distinguished history of agriculture. Is that true?
That's correct. Well, we're celebrating the 150-year anniversary this year of the establishment of Lake County, and farming has been going on here for at least that long. Conventional type farming has been going on here for at least that long. And it's obvious. I mean, these were the soils that were easy to work back in the days when we didn't have machinery. We had, horses and plows and shovels and picks to work with, and so it's obvious why they chose this. Plentiful water supply. We get lots of water here from between 100 and 200 feet in the ground. So it's a great area to draw water for irrigation, for frost protection in the spring. And yet the soils are very well drained, so it's great for viticulture as well as other crops.
Excellent. David, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.